Atahualpa, son of the Incan Emperor Huayna Capac, rose to power after the deaths of his father and his successor Ninan Cuyochi due to a smallpox epidemic around 1525. Initially, Atahualpa recognized his half-brother Huascar as the new emperor, but tensions quickly escalated, leading to the Inca Civil War from 1529 to 1532. Atahualpa emerged victorious, capturing Huascar in the process. However, his triumph was short-lived as Spanish conquistadors, led by Francisco Pizarro, arrived in the region. In November, they ambushed and captured Atahualpa in Cajamarca. Despite offering a hefty ransom for his release and arranging for Huascar's execution, Atahualpa was accused of treason and sentenced to death by the Spanish. After his baptism in July 1533, he was garroted instead of being burned at the stake. Although successors continued to claim the title of emperor, none could wield the same level of authority as Atahualpa. There are differing accounts regarding Atahualpa's birth, with uncertainties surrounding both the date and place. While some sources suggest he was likely born around 1502, there is disagreement regarding his birthplace. Pedro Cieza de León, a chronicler and soldier, claimed that Atahualpa was born in Cusco to a mother named Tuto Pala, or Tupac Pala, belonging to an ethnic group from the province of Quito. However, Juan de Betanzos asserted that Atahualpa was born in Cusco to an Inca princess from the lineage of Inga Yupangue. Another account, attributed to Juan de Velasco, suggests Atahualpa was the son of Paca, the daughter of the last king of the Kingdom of Quito, and Huayna Capac. However, this version lacks historical and archaeological support according to some historians. Most Peruvian historians maintain that Atahualpa was born in Cusco, and his mother was an Inca princess. They argue that claims of Atahualpa's Quito origin were fabricated to discredit him as a usurper. According to these historians, the right to the Inca throne was not solely determined by primogeniture, but also by practical considerations, such as leadership abilities. Atahualpa spent his early years in Cusco, alongside his father, before undergoing the Huarachicuy ritual, marking his transition into adulthood. At the age of 13, rebellion erupted in the north of the empire, led by the Caranquis and the Cayambis. Atahualpa, along with his father and brother Ninan Cuyochi, led the Inca army northward to quell the uprising. Meanwhile, Huascar and other governors remained in Cusco. Atahualpa remained in Quito for over a decade, assisting his father in suppressing rebellions and expanding territory. Supported by skilled Inca generals like Chalcuchimac and Quizquiz, he honed his leadership skills and gained renown for his bravery in battle. Chroniclers described Atahualpa as possessing sharp intellect and commanding presence. Throughout the Inca Empire's history, each Sapa Inca aimed to expand its territory. Under Pachacuti's rule, the empire stretched into northern Peru, with his son Tupac Inca Yupanqui leading an invasion of present-day Ecuador. This news prompted the tribes and nations of Ecuador to form alliances as a defense against the Inca. In 1460, Tupac Inca Yupanqui, backed by an army of 200,000 warriors, swiftly conquered the Palta nation in southern Ecuador and northern Peru. Despite fierce resistance from the Canary, the Incas were impressed and recruited them into their army. In northern Ecuador, an alliance between the Quizquiz and the Canary posed a greater challenge. However, after defeating them at the Battle of Atuntaqui, Tupac Yupanqui established settlers in Quito, appointing Chalco Maita as governor. Around 1520, rebellion erupted among the Quitu, Caras, and Puruja tribes against Inca Huayna Capac. Huayna Capac personally led his army to crush the rebels in the bloody Battle of Laguna de Yaguarcocha. Following his victory, Huayna Capac solidified his power by marrying Paca Ducasela, queen of the Shiras, thereby securing the loyalty of the northern tribes. Upon Huayna Capac's death in 1527, Atahualpa was appointed governor of Quito by his brother Huascar. Huascar perceived Atahualpa as a significant threat to his authority, but refrained from removing him from power out of respect for their late father's wishes. Despite a tense 5-year peace, Huascar used this time to gain support from the Canary, who held grievances against Atahualpa due to past conflicts. By 1529, the relationship between the brothers had deteriorated significantly. Chronicler Pedro Pizarro reported that Huascar's forces ambushed Atahualpa in Tumabamba, leading to his capture and imprisonment. However, Atahualpa managed to escape, albeit with injuries, including the loss of an ear. He returned to Quito and mobilized a formidable army, launching a successful attack on the Canary stronghold of Tumabamba and later on, Tumbes. Despite sustaining a leg injury during a naval operation, Atahualpa's forces continued to triumph under the leadership of generals like Quizquiz and Chalcuchimac. They defeated Huascar's armies in battles like Chilopampa and Muliambato, ultimately capturing and executing General Atac. As Atahualpa advanced towards Cuzco, he received a prophecy from the oracle of the Huaca Cataquil, predicting his downfall. Enraged, Atahualpa destroyed the temple and continued his march. Meanwhile, in April 1532, Quizquiz and his forces decisively defeated Huascar's army in the Battle of Quipaipan, capturing Huascar, killing his family, and seizing control of Cuzco. Meanwhile, Atahualpa encountered the Spanish led by Pizarro in Cajamarca. In January 1531, Francisco Pizarro and his Spanish expedition, aiming to conquer the Inca Empire, landed on Puna Island with 169 men and 69 horses. They proceeded southward, occupying Tumbes, where they learned about the ongoing civil war between Huascar and Atahualpa. In September 1532, after receiving reinforcements from Spain, Pizarro established the city of San Miguel de Piura before marching towards the heart of the Inca Empire with 106-foot soldiers and 62 horsemen. Meanwhile, Atahualpa, stationed in Cajamarca with an army of 80,000 troops, became aware of the approaching Spanish expedition and dispatched an Inca noble to gather intelligence. After assessing the Spaniards' weaponry and horses, Atahualpa deemed them not to be a significant threat and invited them to meet him in Cajamarca, intending to capture them. Consequently, Pizarro and his men encountered no resistance as they traversed challenging terrain and reached Cajamarca on November 15, 1532. Atahualpa and his army had encamped on a hill near Cajamarca, with Atahualpa himself staying in a building close to the Conoj hot springs, while his soldiers resided in tents around him. Upon Pizarro's arrival, Cajamarca was largely deserted, except for a few hundred aclas. The Spaniards were accommodated in certain long buildings on the main square, and Pizarro dispatched an embassy to the Inca, led by Hernando de Soto, consisting of 15 horsemen and an interpreter. Shortly afterward, de Soto sent an additional 20 horsemen, led by Pizarro's brother, Hernando Pizarro, as reinforcements in anticipation of a potential Inca attack. The Spaniards extended an invitation to Atahualpa to visit Cajamarca and meet Pizarro, a proposition he agreed to for the following day. Meanwhile, Pizarro devised an ambush strategy to ensnare the Inca. While the Spanish cavalry and infantry occupied 3 long buildings around the square, musketeers and artillery were strategically positioned in a stone structure at the center of the square. The plan aimed to persuade Atahualpa to acknowledge Spanish authority, with contingency options of a surprise attack if feasible, or maintaining a cordial facade if faced with overwhelming Inca forces. The next day, Atahualpa departed from his camp at midday, leading a procession of men dressed in ceremonial attire. As the procession approached slowly, Pizarro dispatched his brother Hernando to invite the Inca into Cajamarca before nightfall. Atahualpa entered the town late in the afternoon, carried in a litter by 80 lords, accompanied by 4 other lords in litters and hammocks, and followed by 5,000, 6,000 men carrying concealed weapons. Witnesses noted Atahualpa's intoxicated state, having consumed alcohol during stops along the route. Upon arrival, Atahualpa found no Spaniards in the plaza except for the Dominican friar Vicente de Valverde and an interpreter. Accounts vary regarding Valverde's words, but most agree he invited Atahualpa to converse and dine with Pizarro. However, Atahualpa demanded the return of all items taken by the Spaniards since their arrival. Valverde briefly discussed the Catholic religion, but did not present the requerimiento, a speech asserting Spanish authority and the Christian faith. At Atahualpa's request, Valverde offered him his breviary, which Atahualpa promptly discarded. Valverde then rushed back to Pizarro, signaling the attack. The Spanish infantry and cavalry emerged from hiding and charged the unsuspecting Inca retinue, causing chaos and panic. Pizarro personally led the charge on Atahualpa, capturing him after a brief struggle that resulted in the deaths of Atahualpa's carriers. Remarkably, not a single Spanish soldier was killed in the ambush. On November 17th, the Spaniards plundered the Inca army camp, discovering vast treasures of gold, silver, and emeralds. Recognizing their fixation on precious metals, Atahualpa proposed to fill a large room with gold once and silver twice within 2 months, measuring about 6.7 meters long, 5.2 meters wide, and 2.4 meters high. While it's commonly believed that Atahualpa offered this ransom to secure his freedom, some argue he did so to save his life, as there's no mention in early chronicles of any commitment by the Spaniards to release him once the metals were delivered. After months of fearing an attack from General Ruminawi, the outnumbered Spanish deemed Atahualpa too risky to keep alive and opted for his execution. Pizarro orchestrated a mock trial, accusing Atahualpa of rebellion against the Spanish, idolatry, and the murder of his brother Huascar. Atahualpa, facing death by burning at the stake, was distressed, as Inca beliefs dictated that the soul could not transition to the afterlife if the body was burned. Friar Vicente de Valverde, who had previously offered his breviary to Atahualpa, intervened, suggesting that Atahualpa convert to Catholicism to potentially commute the sentence. Atahualpa agreed and was baptized into the Catholic faith, taking the name Francisco Atahualpa in honor of Francisco Pizarro. On the day of his execution, Atahualpa was questioned about his birthplace, declaring it to be in the Incas' kingdom of Quito, specifically in Caranqui. Most chroniclers corroborate this, though alternative accounts suggest different birthplaces. Per his request, Atahualpa was strangled with a garrote on July 26, 1533. His clothes and some skin were burned, and he was given a Christian burial. Atahualpa was succeeded by his brother Tupac Hualpa, and later by another brother, Manco Inca.